With squash finally getting into the Olympics for LA 2028, every professional player will be desperate to try and make it into their national team. Now, we're not exactly sure yet how many people will be able to get into each team, but I've heard that it could be as few as only 2 people a team. Today I'll be going through all the potential players that will have a shot in making it into the GB men's team. It's worth mentioning that being on this list at all is a compliment, even if I say there's only a slim chance of you making the team. So we're going to be starting with what I'd like to call the old guard. So the guys who have been at the top level, they might still be relatively towards their peak or within the top 10 in the world or 20 or around that sort of area. And their job, if they want to be in the team, is to hold that level as long as they can, to not let those younger guys come up and overtake them. So we're going to start with Mohamed Elshorbagy. Now, obviously, he's been world number one for a long time, not that recently, but he was very dominant for a good few years. He's currently ranked number 8 in the world. I would say you can tell that he is hanging on already, and that is my worry for 2028. I feel like the last few seasons he's been looking like he is struggling a bit with his body. He's had to try and change the way he plays, but then he's lost a bit of his fire, a bit of what made him really good. So do I think he'll be able to hold on? Because currently he is the highest ranked player of all the contenders. He's the highest ranked British player, only just, because we'll see someone else in a minute who is right behind him. But I think if they only take 2 people, I don't think he'll be in that 2 by then. I think he'll have slipped too far down. If they take a few more, if they're allowed, depending on the format, I could see them taking him to be a mentor for some of the younger players that will inevitably come up. So I could see him being in the team, but not if it's only 2. I could even see him in some sort of coaching position or something like that with the team. But do I think he'll be in the team playing? I think by then he might have just fallen off. He'll still be a good player, but compared to some of the others coming up, I think they'll have overtaken him by then. And that brings us on to Joel Makin. Now, Joel's an interesting one because he also plays a very physical game. And he is he's younger than Mohamed, but he's still, how old? He's born in 1994, so that is, he's 30. He's going to turn 30 in October, which means in 4 years' time he'll be 34. Now that's definitely doable. I can see that happening. I can see that happening. Let me just see Mohamed. Yeah, so Mohamed's 3 years older than him. So Mohamed would be 37-ish, around that, which is pretty old. But Joel, 34. Now, the only question there is, will he be able to keep his physicality as someone that relies on it as part of a major part of his game? Will he be able to hold that physicality for the next 4 years? Or will that start to drop off and then cause his level to drop off massively because his game isn't necessarily like a James Willstrop who was able to play for a number of years and still get big wins because he was just so skillful and accurate. Or even a Nick Matthew was able to really adapt his game as he got older. Now, it's possible. It's definitely possible. So I do believe that Joel will actually still be in the team by then. I think he's hungry. I think he will be one of the people in the team personally. I think he'll have held everyone else off just long enough. Next, we've got Marwan Elshorbagy. He's number 10 in the world, so we've got 8, 9, and 10 right now. I think Marwan's been falling off for a while now, personally. I think one thing he does have is because he is an intelligent player and he can win points very effectively. I feel like as he gets older, he'll still be able to be effective against a lot of players and find ways of winning that don't rely on his physicality. Because he's never been a particularly physical player as it is. Um, he actually keeps the rallies relatively short and takes balls in from the back of the service box and uses boasts and works his opponents in and then tries to pick people off. Um, so um, yeah, so that's kind of the positive for him. The negative is, well, he's never been that good of a mover, and recently he's looked even worse at moving, especially into the front left. I've noticed quite a lot. Um, I feel like as he goes into the front left, he just doesn't look that comfortable. He's not that dynamic with it. I feel like people will be able to exploit that more and more. So I think by then he won't get into the team. He'll be 35. Um, it's only a year older than Joel, but I feel like the trajectory is very different to Joel's. Joel's is very much. I feel like he's still progressing in ways, but I feel like the trajectory of Marwan is he's actually going down because he's been as high as what 3 or 4 in the world. Like he's been very highly ranked, and now he's only at 10. So I feel like he's slipping a little bit, and that brings us to Greg Lobban, who's currently ranked 17 in the world. Now Greg Lobban's actually playing his best squash. He did he win a tournament? He got to a final. He did well towards the back end of last season, so I was very impressed with that. The only thing against him is that he will be 36 by then. Um, I'm guessing a little bit August, so he'll be kind of 35, 36, um, something like that. But anyway, that means that again he's on the older end of that spectrum, and I don't think he's necessarily good enough to by then be at that level. It's different when you're talking about someone like Joel or Mohamed because they're in the top 10 or Mohamed in particular. Because he's been so good, you kind of think, well, there's a chance he could hold on just because he's that good and he's that experienced and he's that knowledgeable. So there's kind of a question about that. But if you get someone else of a similar age who is still good but hasn't been world champion and world number one and been so dominant, I have a little bit less faith that they'll be able to hold on to that level. So personally, I don't think Greg Lobban would um, be in the team, but he's got an outside shot of it if he keeps his level up. Like he is a very good player. Um, so yeah, possible. Then we've got Adrian Waller. Now he's even older. He's the oldest. It might be the oldest on the list. And for that reason, I no, he's not going to make it. He's a very good player. He has very good strengths. He's very strong around the middle, but his weaknesses also let him down a little bit. Where um, he's not great when he's put off balance. The ball goes a bit deeper behind the back of the service box. But then again, if it's within his range, a slightly shorter ball around the back of the service box, he'll punish it more than almost anyone else in the world. So very good player, but he'll be pretty old by then. In fact, 2028, yeah, he'll be like 39 or 38. So I don't see that happening for that reason. Then we've got Nathan Lake, another one of the old guard, who has been playing very good squash the last few years. Actually, what I love about Nathan is he's the ultimate professional. He works hard. He focuses. He's got a very disciplined game. Um, I like the way he plays. He doesn't force the pace too much. He's a clever player, intelligent squash, um, and yeah, I'd like to see him in the Olympics. But again, born in 1992, he'll be what 26, 36. So again, I find it hard to um, imagine him making it there, considering there are some of the younger guys that we'll get onto later that are a similar ranking, yet they are pushing up and they've got a number of years ahead of them and they'll be almost in their prime by the time we get to the Olympics. So, unfortunately, I don't think he'd be in the team. If he'd even want to be, because he lives in America and that now. Um, so, yeah, but I'd imagine he would want to be. Who wouldn't? Okay, and then we've got Declan James, who had been injured for a while and then had a really good tournament at Alexandra Palace, if I remember correctly. But I don't know what he's doing right now. Again, 1993, so on the older end. He's currently ranked 50 in the world, but he's been higher than that. And I don't think he'll make it there. 4 years time, I don't think he will. Some of these guys I will skip through a little bit because while I think they're good players, when there are only two spots up for grabs, you've got to really have good reason to think there's a chance. And some of these players are, it sounds harsh, but they're probably slightly past their best. And it doesn't mean they won't have any success again, but it means in 4 years' time, and if they're trying to be top two in the UK or in Britain, that it's a pretty tall order. Then we're going to get onto some of the younger ones, some of the up and comers. Not everyone in this is that young, but they've still got good years ahead of them. They haven't reached their peak yet for a lot of them. And the first one's going to be Curtis Malik. Now, I'll be honest, I could easily see Curtis making it into that top two. In fact, I think he will. Like, I'll put it out there. I think he will, based on his trajectory, and based off of his results of the last season or two. He's pushing the top guys. He's got some big results. I mean, next season's a big one for him because he needs to start making it deep into some of the major tournaments. And that would up his ranking, and I know he's training very hard. And I think he's very mature. He's a mature player, very analytical, and I think that will serve him well in the coming years, especially as he tries to break into the top 20, and who knows, top 10 after that. We don't know. But his goal will essentially be, can he be better than the guys around him that we'll get onto him in a minute, and can he overtake people like Mohamed as he starts to fade? Because Mohamed won't want to let that happen, even if they get on well. He'll be trying to keep those young guys at bay to give himself the best opportunity possible. Um, so yeah, I think Curtis has a good chance. He'll be like 28, just about to turn 29. So he'll almost be at peak age at that point. I mean, he would be for the one after as well, but like, I mean, 3 or 4 years. 4 years is a long time to improve. A lot changes, which is why we'll see later on. Some of the guys in here are quite young, but I believe that in 4 years' time, everything could change, and they could be playing at a really high level if they aren't already. So yeah, Curtis Malik for me. I think if I had to pick two people, him and Joel would actually be quite a good shout for um, for the 2028 Olympics. And we've got a couple more. We've got a couple of Welsh guys. We've got Emyr Evans, a bit older than Curtis, so he'll be in his early 30s when 2028. But I had to put him in there because he is. I think he's the highest ranked Welsh, but yeah, he must be. No, other than Joel, obviously. So he'll be the Welsh number two technically in world ranking. Um, do I think he'll make it into the team? No, I don't. Um, just because I feel like his trajectory, while he has been going up in the rankings, it's not like he's been gunning up the rankings really quickly. He hasn't shown enough to make me think, oh, he'll be top two. And like I said, there are a lot of good guys on this list. And a lot of the young ones, I'm actually a big fan of the way they play squash as well. When when Nick Matthew retired and James Wallstrop started getting a bit older, it was looking a little bit bleak, especially for English squash. But I feel like the latest juniors and players have really shown a different style. A lot of them are highly skillful, which can't be said for a lot of the previous ones. They're actually very exciting players to watch, and they've all got their own attributes that make them difficult to beat and give them a good chance of being some of the top guys. Um, so anyway, so I don't think Emyr will make it into the team, unfortunately. Then we've got Owain Taylor. Um, now, I've played Owain. He's a good player, um, strong around the middle. Again, similar to Emyr, while he has been improving. In fact, let's see. Just down here, we can see his trajectory. So he had a big increase in 2021, um, and he's kind of slowly been going up. But again, nothing particularly quick. And when you're looking for these guys who are going to be top players, which is essentially what we're looking at here, we're looking at who do we think might be top 10 in the world. Because essentially, if you want to be top two, you have to be probably top 10 in the world, top 15. Yeah, you could stretch it to top 20 depending on how good the others are, but that's what we're looking at. And if you're kind of slowly creeping inside the top 100, but that's it, and you're kind of now Owen's what? He's what year are we in now? 2024. So Owen would be 28. Yeah, he'd be 28 now. When you get into that sort of age, if you're not really gunning up the rankings, then it's hard to imagine that that person would be top 20 in the world or whatever. They could get top 50 or something like that, but and obviously nothing's impossible. But looking at what's happened previously, it's unlikely at that point. Again, doesn't mean they're not good squash players. They're very good squash players. But we're talking about being the best of the best here. So I don't think Owen would make the team. Sadly, because I quite like Owen. Nice guy. Then we got Nick Wall. Now, Nick Wall's got a good ranking. 35 in the world. He's been a bit higher. Coached by Nick Matthew, I believe. I really like the way Nick plays. He plays a very good style, left-hander. I've played him a few times over the years. I think he's a very good player. I know he's had a few injuries. I think for him, it's all about can he keep those injuries at bay? Can he keep the positive trajectory? Yeah, he's going to be competing with the likes of Curtis Malik and some others coming up to get those spots because he's a quality player. He definitely has a shot at the team. 100% has a shot at the team. But if I'd have my money on Curtis. But that being said, they're both fantastic players. And I hope that there's more than two spots up for grabs. I wish there were 4 or 5 to be honest, because I think Nick would be in my 4 or 5 list of people that I probably would want to see going. But we'll see how he progresses over the next few years. And we've got George Parker. Now George he's ranked pretty highly as well, 38. We all know what George is capable of. He's very strong around the middle, has good skills, but we all know that his mentality is the mental side of his game is the weak point, and he hasn't shown me or anyone else that is going to change. And until he shows that, he's not making the team for me. He's a very good player, but if he doesn't sort the mental side out, he's not going to be good enough for it. Because he's up against guys who are mentally actually quite sound and also have the attributes he has. So for me, George Parker won't be in it. They'll want someone a bit more level-headed. And we've got Patrick Rooney, another player I love watching because his skill levels are extremely high too, much like um, Curtis and Nick's. Um, Now, a lot of people say that he lacks the killer instinct and that sort of real grit. And I do tend to agree with that a little bit because I think his issue, I don't know if it's that. I feel like sometimes he loses sight of what he's trying to do on the court. And what I mean by that is because he's so skillful, he has so many options from every area of the court that he doesn't, he kind of has too many choices. And it means he kind of loses track of exactly pinpointing what he should be doing. Like a Paul Cole, he's got one or two or three options from every area of the court, and he limits himself to those options. And that means he can really refine the way he plays, and he's really got a good, rigid game plan. And it works very effectively. Whereas I feel like Patrick or Pat, uh, there's a bit too much going on. But that being said, if he can hone in, I don't know who's coaching him at the moment. I know he's had a few injury issues, but if he can hone in on the things he is good at and figure out a template of or a blueprint of how he wants to play and use those skills to have very high quality, um, I think he'll be able to break people down that way. He's another player I would love to see push on because he's been as high as almost 20 in the world. Um, yeah, I love watching him play. I think he's a fantastic player, but um, will he make the team? I I think he hasn't progressed as fast as I would have hoped a couple of years ago. But if he realizes his potential, then he's definitely a big contender for it. So we'll see. But again, if there are more than two or three spots, if there are, three or four spots, he's someone that I would like to see in there. Then we've got Charlie Lee. Now, this one's a bit of a sad one, really, because Charlie's such a good player, very natural, really good mover, so smooth. But he's had injury issues. His back's been playing up for a long time now. Now, I really hope that has a way to sort itself out, for his sake and for everyone else's sake, because he's a good player to watch. Got good skills too. Um, I don't know what to say about this because if it does sort itself out, he's definitely a contender, 100% a contender, along with some of the others I mentioned. But I don't know. I don't know what the situation is fully. So I can't really comment. But yeah, I wanted to put him in there because he's definitely up there quality wise. And we've got Simon Herbert, another person I know well from the junior days. Um, Simon is a very interesting player. He's unbelievably aggressive. Like he's all out attack in the way he plays. In fact, I really like it. I like the fact he's honed in on that. And I like the fact he's a bit all or nothing. But what it's led to is it's kind of, I mean, he's ranked just outside the top 50 in the world. So it's got him very decently ranked. What it's led to, though, is the players who aren't as good as him, the players ranked below him, he'll blow off the court. He'll blow them away. Um, and they won't be able to deal with it. But the people above him who can defend it and neutralize him, he kind of doesn't have a plan B yet. So I think a lot of this um, prediction just depends on whether he's able to develop a plan B. Um, and well, yeah, we'll see. If he can develop a good plan B and also be effective with his plan A and be able to switch between them depending on the scenario, then that could do wonders for his game. And I think he's got a lot of talent. He can really slot the ball in the nick as well. He's got no fear. The other thing is, can he mentally deal with poor ref decisions and stuff like that? Because I know even other people on this list already can struggle with that. people like George Parker. I mean, I struggle with it too. It's a very difficult part of the game, but some people naturally struggle more than others just because of, it's just naturally who you are. But I'd like to see him gunning for the team because I do like the way he plays. But can he develop a plan B? We'll find out over the next few years. They've got Tom Walsh. Now Tom, what to say about Tom? Apart from he was my biggest rival growing up, or at least in my mind he was. Partly because you knew it was never going to be an easy game. Even if you won, it wasn't going to be easy. Because he's physically very, very good. Very quick, strong. Yeah, he could play a lot. Let's just say he could play a lot of athletic sports, and he'd probably be good at them because he's naturally got that physicality. Now, what he doesn't have so much is racket skills compared to some of the others on this list. They're a lot better than they used to be, and since he's been training in Miami with Hindi, his tactics and everything has definitely come together a bit more. Hence why he's 67 in the world. But I feel like to get to these top spots, you've kind of got to have a bit of everything. It's hard to be that good and have a real big weakness. And I know we were talking about Marwan's weakness of his movement and stuff like that. So I'm being a little bit hypocritical, maybe. But for him, his strength is so big that it kind of outweighs the weakness. The difference is with someone like Tom is basically all the guys, like a lot of guys at the top are physically strong. You've got your Joel Makins and Paul Coles. So then it's a question of, well, you're not going to be physically better than them. Can you be tactically better than them? Can you be technically better than them? In Tom's case, I don't think so. But then at the same time, Tom could, in theory, be a Joel Makin-esque player. What's stopping that from happening? I don't know. I mean, maybe nothing. Maybe he could be. We'll have to see. I mean, Joel Makin, when he was young, definitely didn't seem to be a top 10 contender. But now look at him. He's a mainstay in there. He has been for the last few years. So, I don't know. We'll find out. But I don't think he would make the team, personally. Now I've got some even younger guys. Jonah Bryant. Now, if I were to make a very bold call, and it would be a very bold call. It wouldn't be like, I don't know what the odds would be on this if it was on a betting website, but if I were a betting man, I wanted to go for something that's a little bit slightly risky, but might pay off. I would actually put the top three for the Olympics 2028 being Curtis Malik, Joel Makin, and this man here. Well, he is a man now technically. Jonah Bryant. Jonah's a special player. He's only just turned 18, I think, or 19. He's just turned 19. And he, how to explain it? He's one of these special players that has gunned up the rankings at a very young age. He's got structure and maturity for someone of his age that is very rare from an English player. I remember, so he's from Sussex, so he was from the same county as me, and I remember my coach Graham Stevenson seeing him play for the first time when he was probably about 6 or something, and he said to me, "This kid is going to be a top player." He might have even said a future world number one. He could tell that early on how good he was. And he beat Mohamed Zakaria, who was his rival. He beat him in a PSA final this year, played unbelievable squash. Mohamed Zakaria is younger, though. He's only 16, so let's maybe ignore that too. But I think Jonah Bryant could, like, in 3 or 4 years' time, he could be unbelievable. Like, he could really gun up the rankings. He's already pushing top players. He's played in major tournaments. He's getting results. He's a very effective player, but he does it in a structured way. I mean, Rob Owen's doing a good job with him. Obviously, he was already a good player before we went to Rob Owen, but Rob Owen has a good way of refining already good players and turning them into even better players. Um, and I just think someone like him, because he plays a consistent style, because it's not like pure skill, he's definitely on his way to the top level. Um, you can replicate that. You can have more consistency with that style. The only thing I would say is he relies on his speed quite a lot. He's rapid, like he's very quick. So if he were to ever get injured or something like that, and something that take away his speed a little bit, I think it could affect how successful he is. But let's hope that doesn't happen, and let's hope he keeps progressing because he's a very it's very bright for England's future, or in this case, Britain's future for the GB team. Um, but yeah, if it was a three-person team, I might actually put him in there. Okay, next we've got Ben Smith, another youngster. How old is he? He's like 3 years younger than me, so 22. He's very tall. He's got good skills. Um, do I think he has a chance though? No, I think he is. He's a little bit taller than me, and I think he's too tall personally, because I'm pretty sure he's taller than someone like James Wilstrop. And the issue is it's enough for him. He could probably get like top 50 in the world. Probably, well, I don't know, maybe even top 30 in the world. But when it comes to breaking into like the top levels, um, those players will exploit any little weakness. And when you're that sort of height, it can be very difficult when people are twisting and turning you to keep that physicality good and keep that intensity and be able to hold your body shape and all that sort of thing. So even someone like James Willstrop, you saw him having to really twist and turn, and he dealt with it because he was got the best ball control of all time. But anyone of that sort of height, I mean, in this case, taller, um, they're going to struggle more with that, right? Um, they like Ben Smith's ball control is good, but James Willstrop's on another level with that. So I can't see Ben making the team. Um, but I do actually like the way he plays squash. Um, and I could still see him being a successful player. It's just, I mean, he could prove me wrong. Like if he can sort and get that physicality right and train really hard and really strengthen up. He's a strong boy, but like if he can try and match those other guys and if that's possible, I don't know. It might be possible, but I can't. It's a very very outside chance that would ever happen. Um, so yeah, I don't think it will. But fair play to him. He's got to a high level. I mean, I played him a couple of times a few years ago and always enjoyed the matches with him. But yeah, let's move on. Finnlay Withington, another World Junior Champion. Now, when an English player wins a World Junior Championship, it's a big deal. Because if you look at the list of people that have done it, um, well, it's few and far between. It's a massive achievement because at the junior level, there are often a lot of good nations like Egypt, Malaysia, India, whatever, the Americans now, even this time the Koreans, whatever it is. um, there are a lot of good nations that England tend to struggle against in the junior age groups. But Finnlay Withington was pretty consistently at the top of that because 2 years in a row he was up there. I don't remember the stats, but uh, he was a dominant junior. My issue with him is I think he lacks a little bit of structure to his game. He's got a lot of skill. I like that, a lot of skill. But I think he might be a little bit too attacking. Kind of like how Simon Herbert's all or nothing with his attack. I think Finn needs to build a little bit more structure to his game and then use his skills more to build rallies and then finish rather than go for too much too early, open up the court, and against a good player, then mop him up and make him do a lot of work for that. So personally, I think Finn, um, it's in his hands. If he's able to maybe improve his physicality a bit and improve his structure, that could be a game changer, and you could see him barrel up the rankings quickly. But that's on him. He's still young. He's definitely a bright prospect. But someone like Jonah, who's had a more structured game, even though he's a bit younger, and has lost to him before, Jonah's kind of gone up the rankings quicker. And I think that's because of that structure. Then we've got Perry Malik. Now, Curtis's younger brother, Perry. Now, I see Perry in training, so I know what he's capable of. His skills are ridiculous. He's so skillful. He always has been. But all he's got to do, I think he just needs a couple of big wins to give him a bit of confidence next season. And that will improve his consistency. And once he's improved his consistency, I think everyone already knows he can beat a lot of top players on his day. But it's just about, can he have his day more often? And if he can get that, then I could see him being a contender in 3 or 4 years' time. Like, he's got the skill level for it. I'd love to see it happen. Again, as we go further down this list, I haven't done it in any particular order, other than I kept the older guys at the front and the younger guys at the back. But as we get further down the list, like, obviously they're very on the off chance that there's like a big improvement over the next 3 or 4 years, because the team will probably be selected in 3 years or something. So it's not like, while a lot can change then, for a lot of these younger guys, it's probably more realistic to look at the Olympics after that, if it's still in the Olympics after this one, which hopefully it is. And if you were to ask me, well, who will be in the Olympics after that? Someone like Perry, I could definitely see it happening. But again, it's too long, it's too far away to look at. But for 3 years' time, it's possible. He's got the skill level for it. We'll see what happens this season. I really hope that he gets some big wins, and can show everyone what he can do, because some of the stuff he does is ridiculous. Same with Curtis, to be honest. Yeah, and to be honest, even the younger brothers, Bailey and Heston, I would put them on this video officially, but I feel like they're probably going to be aiming for the one after 2032, if it is in that. I mean, they're both improving at a very fast rate, and they're very talented. So I could definitely see that happening in the future. But for the 2028 one, yeah, we'll see. And next we've got Elliot Morris Devred. Now, I wanted to make sure that I had enough people that aren't from England on the list. And Elliot is one of the best Welsh players. You've got Emyr Evans, as we saw. We've got Owain Taylor. We've got John Makin, obviously. And Elliot comes in the Welsh team as well. Yeah, like, I don't think he's had the progression that will take him up to the top of the rankings. He is a good player, but I don't think he will stack up against those top guys. But that being said, he still deserves a mention on this list, because he's still one of the best. Then we've got a bit of a wild card here, literally, Sam Osborne-Wylde. Now, he's playing at a very high level at the moment. He's young. I think he's getting coached by Rob Owen. His ranking doesn't have much to show for it because it's only 211, but he's a lot better than that, I think. And I could see him really shooting up the rankings and really pushing on and pushing top players very soon. Yeah. I mean, we'll see next season, but he's one of those youngsters that is barreling up. In his case, more in his ability rather than the ranking itself. I don't know exactly why that is. Um, Maybe he hasn't played. Yeah, he's only played 8 tournaments. Um, so yeah, we'll see. But I think he's definitely one to watch. Um, and then we've got AbdAllah Eissa or Asa or Issa. I always say Issa, but I don't actually know how to say it properly. Um, he's the top junior English player at the moment. Now that Jonah's gone out the rankings, he is a good player, but he's not anywhere near Jonah. So I don't think he has a chance this time, but he's still a very good player. Um, and he's still someone to look out for in the coming years because he has talent and he is. I mean, I try and compare it to previous years and who's been the best. And I think if you look at like generally who the English number ones are over the years, over the last 10 years, let's say, for in the juniors under 19s, I think he's one of the better ones. Um, yeah, if you compare everyone, so he's definitely got a bright future. Well, I say definitely. You never know in squash. Like there are people who are very talented that don't make it. Um, but hopefully he does make it for the sake of England. Um, and the final one that we're going to go for is someone who doesn't have a ranking right now due to injury, and that's Sam Todd. Um, Now, I don't know the situation with Sam. I think he's training again. He's been injured. I don't know what level he's playing at. All I know is that he's a very talented player. He's someone that won every age group quite easily. Now, I do think his age group was particularly weak. He seemed to dominate it probably too easily. Uh, but uh, he's someone who he's kind of a bit of a James Willstrop esque player in the sense that his ball control is very high, but he is very tall. And I was always a little bit worried for him um, that his height would cause him to have a lot of injuries as he grew. And because it's tough on the body to be that tall. Like I said with Ben Smith earlier, to be have the physicality for squash at that height is very difficult. Um, and some, people can do it. I just think it's when you're any of the extremities, if you're really small or really tall, um, it can have an impact and make it a bit more difficult. Ideal height in squash. I mean, there isn't an ideal height, but kind of 6 foot being your being nice, 6'1", that like that's kind of your tall, strong player, and then the nippy players can probably go down to like 5'8" sort of thing, maybe 5'10". In that sort of range is ideal. Anything out of them, you can still be a very good player. You could still be the best in the world, but you've got to have attributes. You've got to have parts of your game that almost overcome that. Most people aren't top players because of that stature. It would more be in spite of that stature if they are on the extremes. Um, but yeah, I just thought I'd throw Sam Todd in there because I think you've got to respect his talent. Do I think he'll make it for the Olympics? No, I don't, because he's had a long time out of the game. And while he's been out, a lot of other people have really risen up. Um, but yeah, that's it. I think just as like a little overview or recap, I think Joel Makin will hang on and be in the team. Let's go with my top 5 picks. Joel Makin, I think, will hang on and be in the team. I think Curtis will rise up and be in the team. I genuinely think that Jonah by then will be playing at a very high level, and I think he'll be in the team. Um, I think if we are going top 5, then I'd keep Mohamed in there. Um, what's that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'd put it's either Patrick Rooney or Nick Wall for me. Um, One of those two. I think we will only know that within the next year or two. But there's that would be my top five. Now I know the team probably won't consist of five people, but just so you know that they're kind of my five players to watch. It'll be interesting to see how much the drop off is from Mohamed, whether Joel can prevent any drop off, how Curtis performs the next couple of seasons, whether he can really push up to the top of the game, which I know he's capable of. And whether Nick Wall can almost do the same and manage his injuries, and whether Patrick Rooney can overcome some of that slight inconsistency and injuries and realise that potential I know he has with that talent level. If any of the players that I've talked about want to come on and have a chat, podcast or something like that, let me know. Shoot me a message. And for all you guys watching, the viewers, leave comments down below of your opinions of who you think will make the team, which players you like, maybe which you don't like, but that's up to you. And yeah, just give your opinions. The more discussions, the better. And thank you for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it, as that really helps. See you next time. Bye.